Here's the rewritten passage with a slight refinement for clarity and flow while maintaining the original English language and tone. Have you ever wondered what force could break a love that seemed unbreakable? What could reduce the most solemn vows to nothing more than wisps of smoke? This is the story of Morgan, a woman who appeared to have it all, only to see everything slip away in the span of a single ill-fated night. It's a tale of love, profound betrayal, and the invaluable lessons we must all learn, no matter our journey. This isn't just Morgan's story. It resonates with the struggles and longings of anyone seeking to understand the true essence of love and the meaning of happiness. It prompts us to reflect on what's worth fighting for, and how a moment of weakness can undo a lifetime of effort. The genesis of love. Morgan and William, two names that seemed destined to be spoken together, were drawn together as if by the hand of fate. Their paths first crossed in the 11th grade, during the most vibrant years of youth. William, a quiet and thoughtful boy with an intellectual spark, was a striking contrast to Morgan's outgoing personality and infectious zest for life. They were opposites in every sense, yet their connection was magnetic, defying easy explanation. "I remember it like it was yesterday," Morgan would often say, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "The first time I saw William, he was tucked away in the corner of the classroom with a massive book in his hands, completely engrossed. His gaze was gentle but carried a depth of wisdom I'd never seen in someone our age. I, on the other hand, was the rebellious one, always seeking attention and pushing boundaries. His quiet demeanor felt like a challenge, and the attraction was instant. We didn't know it then, but that moment was the beginning of something extraordinary." She fondly recalled the day William mustered the courage to ask her out for bubble tea after school. He was so nervous, twisting his hands the entire time. It was adorable. I wasn't expecting it, but I couldn't hide how thrilled I felt. That spring afternoon turned into hours at a cozy tea house, where we talked about everything under the sun. William wasn't the most talkative, but he listened in a way that made me feel truly seen. For the first time, I didn't have to pretend or put up a front. It was so refreshing. Her voice softened as she described their first brush of hands during a shared laugh. It was the strangest, most beautiful feeling, like a spark I couldn't ignore. In that moment, I knew something extraordinary had begun. Their relationship blossomed like a delicate flower, with each date deepening their bond. William took her to movies she loved, found quiet cafes to share secrets, and walked with her at sunset as the sky blazed with gold. "He made me feel like the luckiest woman alive," Morgan would say, a smile wistful. "He saw me, heard me, and made me feel important in a way no one else ever had." As the seasons passed, their love grew. Together they tackled the challenges of school, celebrated victories, and found comfort in each other during hardships. "I looked at William and thought, 'This is it, I've found the one,'" she often said. In their sophomore year of college, William proposed on a serene beach at dusk, his love evident despite his nervousness. "It was like a dream come true," Morgan recalled, her eyes shining. "I didn't hesitate for a second. I said yes immediately. It was everything I'd ever imagined and more. From that moment, I believed in our happily ever after." Their early years of marriage were idyllic, filled with laughter, whispered promises, and quiet joy. In their cozy apartment, they built a life overflowing with love. William was the perfect partner, kind, attentive, and unwaveringly supportive. "We were the envy of our friends, the proof that true love existed," Morgan reminisced, her voice trailing off. "Or so we thought." This version retains the heart of the original, while enhancing clarity in the flow of storytelling. Here's the rewritten passage, keeping the original meaning intact and enhancing the flow slightly for clarity and engagement. The subtle erosion. Life has a way of deviating from the script of fairy tales, and over time their relationship began to show cracks. The fiery passion that had once consumed them started to dim, replaced by the quiet monotony of routine. Though they still loved each other, their love had lost its vibrancy. It felt like we were settling. Morgan would later admit, her voice heavy with regret. Life became predictable. Every day looked the same, just us watching TV in the evenings and spending weekends aimlessly around the house. We stopped trying, stopped exploring. It felt like we were trapped in a never-ending loop, and I began to crave something more. Morgan found herself yearning for the thrill and adventure of her younger years, the carefree joy of endless nights, and the excitement of new experiences. She started comparing her life to those around her, especially friends who still seemed to have that spark. Her longing for the freedom and intensity of her college days grew so strong she could almost taste it. "I stopped wanting to tell William how I felt," she said, sadness lacing her words. "It was like he wouldn't understand the emotions swirling inside me. I began to close off, and it felt as though a wall was forming between us. Even when I was with him, I felt alone, like he didn't really see me anymore. It was as if I was fading into invisibility." In search of meaning and fulfillment, Morgan threw herself into her work, becoming a self-proclaimed workaholic. She also turned her attention to her appearance, obsessing over clothes, hair, and how she looked. "It wasn't about attracting someone else or even flirting," she explained. "I just wanted to feel good about myself again, to feel desired, to feel noticed." She began noticing other men with rugged charm, charisma, and an air of mystery. "I felt so lost, like I didn't know who I was anymore," she confessed. "I didn't know what I wanted from my life or even what my life was for. It felt like I was a boat adrift on a vast, endless sea with no sail to guide me home." Morgan knew she was treading dangerous ground, but couldn't seem to stop herself. "I knew my actions would hurt William, but it was like this dark need was calling me, and I felt powerless to resist. There was an inner battle between my heart and my head, between the responsibilities I had and the desires I was starting to experience. I would often ask myself, do I still love William? And the answer was always yes. But the love I felt just wasn't enough to make me happy anymore." She tried to talk to William about her feelings, but their conversations felt like they were speaking different languages. "It was like he wasn't even listening or couldn't understand," she recalled. "It felt like he had stopped trying too. He was still a good husband, but he was no longer my partner or confidant. Our rhythms were out of sync. We no longer saw eye to eye. I started to feel like a stranger in my own life. I remember thinking, how did we get here?" Morgan began pulling away from William, avoiding intimacy and seeking solace in parties and nights out with friends. It was as if she were trying to fill the growing void within her with distractions and empty excitement. "I was losing myself," she admitted. "I had become someone I no longer recognized. I was so consumed by boredom and yearning that I failed to see what was right in front of me. Looking back, it breaks my heart." This version retains the original emotional depth and structure while enhancing readability and narrative flow. Here's the rewritten version of the passage, preserving the original meaning and tone. The unravelling. One evening, as if by a cruel twist of fate, the opportunity presented itself. Her closest friends invited her to join them for a girls' night out at the end of the week. "I said yes without a moment's hesitation," she later admitted, her voice heavy with regret. "I just wanted an escape, a break from everything, a chance to relax and forget about the monotony of daily life." When I told William, he didn't object. In fact, he encouraged me to go, saying I deserved a night off and that he'd wait for me at home. That evening, she got ready with extra care, applying her makeup meticulously, slipping into her favourite dress and spraying on a generous amount of her most alluring perfume. I wanted to feel beautiful. I wanted to look amazing. I wanted to be noticed, to feel desirable again. For one night, I wanted to pretend I wasn't a wife. I wanted to feel like a carefree single woman ready to have the time of her life. It was like I needed to rediscover myself. At the bar, she met Vincent, a stranger with a roguish charm, a magnetic smile, and eyes that seemed to conceal endless secrets. He approached me out of nowhere and started a conversation. He was funny, charismatic, and completely captivating. He made me feel like I was the only person in the room. His stories were so outrageous I couldn't help but laugh. In that moment, all my worries seemed to melt away. The drinks flowed freely that night, and Morgan found herself growing increasingly intoxicated. "It wasn't just the alcohol," she confessed later. "I was drunk on the attention, on the rush of feeling alive again. It was a sensation I hadn't felt in years. For those fleeting moments, I forgot everything, my marriage, my life, my values. I forgot who I was." When Vincent invited her back to his apartment, she didn't resist. She allowed her desires to take control. Deep down, I knew it was wrong. I knew it was reckless, that I was risking everything I held dear, but I couldn't stop myself. It felt like I was running on autopilot, like a moth drawn to a flame, completely unconcerned with the risk of getting burned. In the privacy of Vincent's apartment, she surrendered to a moment of weakness, crossing a line she never thought she would. It was a betrayal, she said later, her voice thick with emotion. A betrayal of everything William and I had built together, our promises, our dreams, our love. I hurt him so deeply, and for what? For a fleeting moment of reckless abandon. The wave of remorse hit her immediately afterward. I felt ashamed, disgusted with myself. I had broken my vows, betrayed the man I had promised to love and honor. For what? A few moments of selfish indulgence. I spent the entire night sobbing, replaying everything in my mind. I couldn't believe what I had done. Sleep evaded her that night as her thoughts churned with self-reproach and dread. As dawn broke, she left Vincent's apartment in haste, desperate to get home. I wanted to see William. I wanted to apologize, but I didn't know how. I was terrified he'd never forgive me. It felt like I had thrown everything away. Walking home, she felt the weight of her actions crushing her. I felt like everyone who saw me knew what I had done, like I was wearing a giant neon sign that screamed, "I am a terrible person." I had gone from feeling secure and happy to being someone I didn't recognize, someone to be judged and condemned. All I had left was regret and a deep, overwhelming shame. When she finally arrived home, William was waiting for her in the living room. His eyes carried a quiet sadness, and his voice was gentle as he asked where she had been all night. She lied. I told him I stayed at a friend's because I'd had too much to drink and couldn't drive. He didn't say much at first. He just looked at me. And in that moment, I saw the hurt in his eyes. I realized the extent of the damage I'd caused. I knew I had destroyed everything. She forced a smile, telling him she'd missed him and was happy to be home, but the guilt gnawed at her. I knew I couldn't live with the deception. It was eating me alive, and it was only a matter of time before the truth would come out. This version maintains the emotional depth and clarity while refining the flow for a smoother reading experience. Here's the rewritten version. The echoes of betrayal. In the days that followed, Morgan tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, concealing the truth from William, yet anxiety and fear consumed her with every passing moment. It was like carrying a dark secret, she recounted, like holding a ticking time bomb in my pocket, just waiting for it to explode. Every interaction with William felt like a countdown to disaster. I was constantly on edge, a complete nervous wreck. Her fear of William discovering her betrayal turned into a haunting presence. She tried to compensate by being overly attentive, creating romantic moments to rekindle their bond. But these gestures felt hollow, too little too late. The emotional distance between them grew, leaving the love they once shared a faint memory. Soon, Morgan noticed a subtle shift in William's behavior. He spoke less, became quieter, and often gazed at her with a melancholy she couldn't place. I could sense something was wrong, that he suspected something, but I just couldn't bring myself to confess. The fear of his reaction was greater than the pain of living with the lie. The truth eventually came to light in a way Morgan never anticipated. Her trusted friends had recorded her night with Vincent and sent the damning video to William. It felt surreal, like a cruel twist in a nightmare, she admitted, her voice quivering. Not only was I betrayed by my own actions, but also by those I considered my closest friends. Their betrayal cut just as deeply. When William confronted her with the video, her world shattered. I had no excuses left, just tears and a desperate plea for forgiveness. There was nothing I could say to erase the pain. Seeing the hurt in his eyes, I knew it was over. His calmness only deepened the sting. He didn't yell or shout, she recalled. He simply looked at me with disappointment and said he could never forgive me. He made it clear that our marriage was beyond repair. The breakup was resolute. William announced he would file for divorce and asked her to leave the house immediately. She begged for another chance, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. It was futile. His mind was made up. I realized then that I had lost everything. Packing her belongings, Morgan felt the weight of her choices. I left the home that had been my safe haven, carrying nothing but regret and shame. I had destroyed everything I held dear for a fleeting moment of recklessness. The price of mistakes. Post-divorce, Morgan's life spiraled further. She lost her job, her friends distanced themselves, and her family's disappointment was palpable. I became an outcast, shunned by the world around me, she reflected. I felt marked by my mistakes, unable to escape the judgment of others. Returning to her parents' home was a humbling ordeal. Moving back felt like a regression, a step back to my childhood. I had worked so hard for independence, only to crawl back in defeat. It was humiliating beyond words. Job hunting proved equally disheartening. My story had spread through town like wildfire. Every interview was met with judgmental stares, as though I carried a scarlet letter. It was isolating and deeply painful. Amid the darkness, Morgan began introspection, confronting the full weight of her actions. I had been selfish and short-sighted, prioritizing fleeting desires over what truly mattered. I had no one to blame but myself. The lessons she learned were profound. Love isn't just passion or romance. It's built on trust, loyalty, and respect. I had betrayed all of that, and the cost was immeasurable. Betrayal doesn't just harm others, it destroys the betrayer as well. I became my own worst enemy. Through time, Morgan found the strength to forgive herself. Healing wasn't easy, and it's an ongoing journey, but I knew I couldn't remain trapped in guilt forever. I had to rebuild, to learn from my mistakes, and to move forward. She chose self-reflection over new relationships. It was time to focus on myself, to grow, to heal, and to become the person I wanted to be. I couldn't look to others to fill the void I had created. Gradually, Morgan pieced her life back together. She found a new job and began mending broken relationships. The scars remain, a constant reminder of the pain I caused and the lessons I learned. But they also remind me of my strength to overcome. Her story, she hopes, serves as a warning. Appreciate what you have. Don't take love for granted. And don't let fleeting desires ruin everything you've built. The cost is far too great. Life isn't a fairy tale, Morgan concluded. But through love, forgiveness, and resilience, we can create the happiness we deserve. Here's the rewritten version. Every life is a journey filled with unexpected turns and challenges. We may falter, we may make mistakes, but what truly matters is how we rise, learn from those missteps, and continue forward. These lessons shape us into better versions of ourselves. A single mistake does not define who we are, but how we respond to it can lead to growth and transformation. I hope Morgan's story serves as a powerful reminder of the value of love, the importance of family, and the need to remain true to our principles. Cherish what you have, and never take for granted the people who matter most to you. If this story touched you, please share it with those you care about. Let us know your thoughts in the comments if it resonated with you. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more meaningful content. Above all, live a life that is rich in purpose and connection. Embrace love wholeheartedly, without judgment or fear, and fiercely protect the people and values you hold dearest. Remember, it's okay to seek help, and you are never truly alone. Strive each day to be the very best version of yourself.